Have you ever felt that weight on your chest right after saying yes, when everything inside you was screaming no? That feeling of having bought external peace at the price of your internal war? If you know this conflict, then understand this well. It is not a sign of weakness. It is proof that your soul is fighting for its own truth. This suffering is real, and it is perhaps the most solitary of all. It is the pain of receiving compliments for a kindness that costs you your integrity. It is the exhaustion of wearing a smiling mask that hides a silent resentment.
You have become an expert in the art of satisfying everyone's needs except your own. The world may love you for your ability to never make waves, but inside, you are drowning in the calm waters you yourself have imposed. You believed that was the price to pay for being loved. But this discomfort growing within you, this feeling of being a stranger in your own life, is the healthiest symptom of an existence that has become inauthentic. This silent war between your need for approval and your desire for authenticity knocks at the door of your consciousness. Carl Jung, the great explorer of the psyche, did not see it as a disease to be cured. He saw it as a call. The call of your most complete self, the essence of who you are, which summons you to stop hiding behind masks and begin at last to exist. And this call is the beginning of a journey towards the only freedom that truly matters. To understand the nature of this inner fissure, one must first observe the instrument we use to hide it from the world. The mask of kindness. You know this mask. You might be wearing it right now. It is smooth, polished, always smiling. It is the mask of the nice person, the one who never bothers anyone, who always agrees, who makes sure everyone is comfortable, except one person, yourself. You have become an expert in the art of self-effacement, a social chameleon so skilled at blending into the backdrop of others' expectations that you have forgotten your own color. This behavior you may have interpreted as nobility of soul, an altruism. But Jungian psychology invites us to look deeper. It is not goodness. It is a survival strategy. It is the persona, that social mask, that Carl Jung identified as the archetype we present to the world. A necessary mask for interacting in society, but which becomes a gilded cage when we forget that it is just a mask and not our true face. By wearing it constantly, you send a message to the universe and to yourself. My needs, my desires, my limits do not matter. Only those of others matter. And slowly, without even realizing it, you disappear. This self-sacrifice begins as a whisper, a small concession here, an unwanted yes there. You think it is harmless, a simple gesture to maintain peace, to avoid unnecessary tension. But each yes that betrays an inner no is a stone you remove from your own fortress. At first the structure still holds, but keep going, and soon the walls will collapse. You find yourself exposed, defenseless, in a territory you yourself have surrendered. The most accurate metaphor is that of a kingdom whose sovereign you has secretly decided to abdicate. You let the courtiers, the passers-by, the strangers dictate the law in your own castle. You eat their leftovers, sleep in the corridors, while offering them the throne. You become a ghost in your own existence, haunting the edges of your life, watching others live in your place, feeding on your energy, your time, your space. This self-abandonment is not a passive act. It is an active and repeated choice, a ritual of self-erasure that leaves you emptied, invisible, and starved for your own substance. Invisibility is the cruelest consequence of this mask. By never showing what is bubbling within you, your strong opinions, your fervent desires, your categorical refusals, others end up seeing only a flat, pleasant surface. They do not love you. They love the reflection of their own desires in you. They love the comfort you provide them. It's an illusory connection, as nourishing as a mirage in the desert. You are in a room full of people, but no one truly sees you. You are appreciated not for your depth, but for your absence of trouble. It's an abyssal solitude. You become a blank page upon which everyone can write their own story, an empty space that others hasten to fill with their own dramas and their own needs. And the biggest trap is that you end up believing it yourself. You believe that your worth lies in your ability to be this perfect mirror, forgetting that a mirror, by definition, is empty. This dynamic is what Jungian psychology calls an identification with the persona. It's a dangerous fusion where the ego, our sense of I, completely identifies with the social role it plays. The actor forgets they are on stage and believes they are the character. The danger is that while the persona is under the spotlight receiving applause for its compliance, your true self, the authentic essence of who you are, is relegated to the shadow, that part of our unconscious where we repress everything deemed unacceptable. Your anger, your boundaries, your powerful no, all of this is thrown into the dungeons of your psyche. But what is in the shadow does not disappear. On the contrary, it ferments, it gains power. And it will manifest in one way or another, whether through inexplicable anxiety, chronic fatigue, or a sudden eruption of resentment. Understanding this is the first step. Your kindness may just be the guardian of the prison where your true soul is locked up. The sound of keys turning in the lock is that feeling of unease that brought you here today. This mask of kindness, so light in appearance, has the weight of lead armor. And its cost is not just invisibility, but a slow and progressive annihilation. The first consequence is total exhaustion. You have become a public source where everyone can come to draw without ever wondering if the source itself isn't drying up. Every yes granted against your will is a cut into your reservoir of vital energy. This is not ordinary fatigue, the kind that is healed by a good night's sleep. It is a fatigue of the soul, an existential weariness that comes from carrying the weight of others' worlds while leaving your own abandoned. You are the pillar supporting the edifice of the needs of those around you, but you feel your own foundations cracking. This silent hemorrhage of your vital force leaves you pale and fragile, wondering why you feel so empty when you give so much. The truth is simple and cruel. You cannot fill others' cup by breaking your own. Then comes the slow poison of resentment. It is the shadow emotion par excellence, the one that grows in the cellars of your psyche every time you swallow a no. At first, it's barely perceptible, a hint of annoyance, a slight bitterness. But resentment is a patient predator. It accumulates, drop by drop, until it forms an acidic ocean within you. It colors your interactions with subtle cynicism, transforms your smile into an inner grimace. Your, of course, with pleasure, is haunted by the ghost of your, how dare you ask me that? This resentment is in reality the cry of your authentic self, the part of you that you have betrayed. It is a healthy reaction to an unhealthy situation. Carl Jung would teach us that this shadow is not to be rejected, but listened to, for this resentment is a compass. It points not towards the meanness of others, but towards the violation of your own boundaries. It is the furious guardian of your violated inner territory. The third consequence is perhaps the most painful, the deep feeling of never being truly loved for who you are. People appreciate you, of course. They praise your availability, your kindness, your reliability. But they don't love the person. They love the function you fulfill. You have become a service, a convenience. They love the mask, not the face hidden behind it. This realization is a solitude of terrifying depth. It's like being the host of a magnificent banquet you've prepared yourself, only to see that no one has saved you a seat at the table. They look at you, but they don't see you. They hear you, but they don't listen to you. This dynamic creates an insatiable hunger for validation, because the love you receive is conditional on your submission. It doesn't nourish, it maintains the dependence. You are trapped in an endless quest to earn a love that, in its current form, will never be true enough to heal you. Finally, all of this locks you into a self-perpetuating cycle, a prison where you are both the captive and the jailer. By accustoming others to your unwavering availability, You have created a norm, an implicit expectation. Those around you no longer ask if you agree, they presume you do. This is often not out of malice on their part, but because you have taught them that your yes was the only possible answer. Attempting to say no then becomes an act of rebellion, a perceived betrayal. You are faced with their incomprehension, their disappointment, or even their anger, which reinforces your initial fear of conflict and pushes you to put the mask back on. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are afraid to disappoint, so you say yes, which makes the future disappointment even greater when you are finally forced to say no. You are not a victim of others. You are a prisoner of a script you have written yourself. To break these chains, you must understand who forged them. The blueprint for this prison was not drawn by the adult you are, but by the child you once were. You were led there by the hand of a much older architect, the child you were, in their desperate quest for security and love. Plunge for a moment into the silence of your memory. The child, in their total dependence, perceives the world through a survival prism.
For them, a parent's anger, their rejection, or even their simple emotional unavailability are not mere inconveniences. They are felt as an existential threat, an abandonment that equates to a form of death. In this situation, the child, in their instinctive wisdom, makes a brilliant calculation. To be safe, to earn my place, to be loved, I must become what is expected of me. It is a tacit contract, signed with the invisible tears of a soul learning to silence itself to survive. People-pleasing is therefore not born of weakness, but of remarkable adaptive intelligence.
It was your masterpiece, your strategy for navigating the sometimes dangerous waters of the adult world. To honor this contract, you had to begin a long and meticulous process of internal sorting. Imagine your child soul as a wild garden, filled with all possible flowers, bright red anger, deep blue sadness, exuberant solar joy, the firm and well-rooted no. But the environment taught you that only certain flowers were acceptable, perhaps the pale and discreet flowers of docility. So, you learned to pull up the others. You learned that your anger was mean, that your needs were selfish, that your exuberance was bothersome. Every time you were told, be good or don't cry, you learned to hide a part of yourself in the shadow. You became the vigilant guardian of your own garden, ensuring that nothing bad or unacceptable could ever see the light of day. You didn't just learn to wear a mask for others. You began to wear it for yourself, to protect yourself from your own nature deemed dangerous. This process becomes autonomous. Initially, the threat comes from the outside, a parent's frown, a teacher's remark. But through repetition, the external voice becomes an internal voice. You internalize the judge. There's no longer a need for someone to tell you to conform. You do it yourself, automatically. This voice becomes the constant whisper in the background of your adult life. It is this voice that paralyzes you before a confrontation, that whispers to you that saying no is an act of unforgivable cruelty, that makes you feel overwhelming guilt at the slightest desire for self-affirmation. This inner guardian, this implacable censor, is the phantom echo of your past. It continues to apply the survival rules of a world that no longer exists, without realizing that the defenseless child has become an adult, capable of protecting themselves and facing the world alone. You are still obeying laws that have become obsolete. And that is where the tragedy of this mechanism lies. The strategy that saved your life in childhood is precisely the one that handicaps you in adulthood. You are navigating the vast ocean of your current life with the map of a tiny pond. This map, once precious, screams danger at you with every wave, every current, every interaction that requires authenticity and healthy confrontation. It tells you that the only safe harbor is that of others' approval, preventing you from discovering the magnificent continents of your own identity. The adult world demands clear boundaries, the ability to negotiate your needs, and the courage to enter into conflict to defend your values. Everything your infantile survival map forbids you. You are not broken. You are simply using an outdated tool for a new reality. But if this map is obsolete, what should replace it? How to navigate without it? This is where the wisdom of depth psychology offers us a new compass, a new path. This path has a name: individuation. If the habit of people-pleasing is the obsolete map, then individuation is the art of becoming your own cartographer, drawing the map of your own soul. This term, central to the thought of Carl Jung, describes the most sacred and natural process of human existence, becoming who you truly are. It is not a process of self-improvement to become a better version of what others expect. It is a process of self-discovery to become a more authentic version of what you already are, in your deepest essence. It is the heroic journey of moving from a state of fragmentation, divided between the mask you show and the shadow you hide, to a state of integration and wholeness. Individuation is the birthright of your soul. It is the quest that calls you to step down from the social stage to venture into the inner landscapes of your being, in search of the only treasure that can truly fulfill you, your authentic self. This journey begins with a radical act, shifting your center of gravity from the outside inwards. It involves developing a strong inner voice, a personal authority that supersedes the din of external opinions and expectations. For years, you listened to others to know what to do, what to think, who to be. The path of individuation invites you to listen to another source, the silent wisdom of your own unconscious. It's learning to decipher the language of your emotions, your intuitions, your dreams. That resentment you felt, that fatigue that overwhelmed you. These were not weaknesses. These were messages, letters sent by your deep self, begging you to change course. Developing your inner voice means starting to treat these messages not as symptoms to be eliminated, but as sacred guidance. It is making your own feelings the most reliable compass for navigating your life. Once you begin to listen to this inner voice, the next step becomes obvious. You must build a space where it can be heard and respected. This space is protected by boundaries. In your quest to please, you left the boundaries of your inner kingdom defenseless. Individuation is the act of rebuilding them, not out of hostility towards the world, but out of love for your own soul. A boundary is not a wall to isolate, but the sacred delineation of a temple. It is the line you draw in the sand that says, "This is my territory, my energy, my time, my well-being, and it is precious." Learning to say no is no longer an act of rejection towards the other, but an act of devotion towards yourself. It is a resounding yes to your own value, to your own mental and spiritual health. Every boundary you set is a stone added to the fortress of your authenticity. When your kingdom is protected and you listen to the counsel of your inner sovereign, you can finally begin to act in accordance with your own values. This is the culmination of the individuation process, the alignment of your thoughts, words, and actions with your personal code of honor, rather than with the desire for validation. You no longer ask yourself, "What will they think if I do this?" But, "Is this true for me?" Acting from this place of truth requires immense courage. It sometimes means disappointing, creating waves, being misunderstood by those who preferred your mask. But this is the price of freedom. It is the difference between being a passive reflection in the mirror of others' expectations and becoming an autonomous source of light. This path of individuation may seem like a steep mountain, a mythical quest. But like any great journey, it begins with a single step, then another. There are concrete stages, tangible actions to begin this liberation. For this path to oneself is not just a philosophy, it is a practice. The first step, and the most disorienting, is to learn to welcome guilt, for it will come. As soon as you utter your first authentic no, a wave of guilt will threaten to overwhelm you. This is the conditioned reflex, the alarm system of your old programming screaming. But here is the secret. This guilt is not a sign that you have done wrong. It is the symptom of your healing. It is the fever of your soul detoxing from its oldest addiction, approval. See it not as an enemy, but as tangible proof that you are changing. Greet it, breathe through it, and do not back down. This is the cry of the old mask cracking, and it is the most beautiful sound in the world, for it announces your liberation. Next, you must consciously redefine the source of your value. Until now, your value was tied to your usefulness. You were a good friend, a good employee, a good partner, because you were helpful, available, easygoing. This is the value of a tool. A hammer has value if it can drive a nail. But you are not a tool. You are a universe. Your value is not in your function. It is in your being. It resides in your complexity, in your nuances, in the totality of who you are, shadow and light included. Your intrinsic value is absolute and non-negotiable. Start to affirm it through actions. Every time you set a boundary, you declare to the universe, "My inner peace is more valuable than the comfort of the other." This is a revolutionary act that shifts the foundations of your self-esteem. Armed with this new definition of your value, you must learn the art of disappointing. This may seem counterintuitive, but it is an essential skill on the path of authenticity. Accept not to match the expectations that others have projected onto you. Their disappointment, when it occurs, is not your responsibility. It is the consequence of their own attachment to a version of you that was not real. You do not have to apologize for finally being yourself. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse. A lighthouse does not apologize for its powerful light. It simply shines, true to its nature. Learning to disappoint means stopping apologizing for your light. It is allowing others to experience your truth, even if it makes them uncomfortable. It is the most honest gift you can give them, and yourself. However, do not expect to become this lighthouse overnight. Transformation is a gradual process. Start small, but be unswervingly consistent. The self-affirmation muscle has atrophied over the years. It needs to be gently retrained. Refuse a small, unimportant thing. Say, "No, I can't tonight," without giving a long justification. Give your opinion on a trivial topic even if it differs from others. Each small act is like a seed you plant. Each no is a drop of water on that seed. The size of the act matters little at first. What matters is the repetition. It is consistency that carves a new path in your brain and in your soul, until authenticity becomes your new nature, your primary reflex. Finally, be ready to embody your new standard and accept the consequences. By becoming more authentic, by erecting the sacred walls of your kingdom, the landscape of your relationships may change. Some people, those who took advantage of your lack of boundaries, might drift away. They will no longer recognize the territory. Let them go. Their departure is not a loss. It is a filtering. It is a space being created. And this space, such is the law of the universe, will be filled. It will be filled by people who are drawn not by your mask, but by the light of your authentic face. Relationships founded not on utility and service, but on mutual respect and a true soul-to-soul connection. By following these steps, you are not just changing a behavior. You are orchestrating a renaissance. You are finally answering the deepest call of your being. This tendency to want to please was never your weakness. It was your training ground. It was the alchemical crucible, the intense and necessary pressure to force you to abandon others' map and seek the gold of your own soul. Only a person endowed with deep sensitivity and empathy could learn to read the needs and emotions of others with such precision. It was not a programming error. It was the development of a gift. The great turning point of your life, the true beginning of your individuation, is not to eradicate this gift, but to redirect it. It is to finally turn this powerful radar, capable of probing the depths of others, towards your own depths. Your greatest perceived wound is on the verge of becoming your greatest strength. If these words have opened a door within you, subscribe so we can cross the threshold together. We are a community of explorers of the inner worlds, learning to shed our masks. To mark your commitment on this path, or to honor the courage you have already shown, comment below with this simple statement: I choose my authenticity. May each comment be an echo, a reminder that we are not alone on this path. Share this video with a soul who perhaps in silence is fighting the same battle. Now close your eyes for a moment if you can. Stop waiting for the world's permission to be who you are. The quest is not to find how to say no. The quest is to become a person whose yes holds immense value because it is rare, true, and chosen. Embrace the courage to disappoint, for it is often in the space created by the disappointment of others that self-respect is born. Your existence is not an apology. Your job is not to please the world. Your job is to build an inner kingdom so true and so solid that the world, finally, will have no choice but to meet you as you are.